For Clement's birthday, I spent 3 months painting The Starry Night as a gift for him. But a few days later, I saw my painting listed on a second-hand marketplace. The description read, "A simp's gift, selling cheap." He hadn't even taken a proper look, so he didn't notice the love letter I had hidden in the folds of the frame. I bought the painting back and decided to let him go completely. But then he cornered me, his voice trembling as he pleaded. I was wrong. Please, can I have the painting back? One day, while scrolling through Twitter, I saw a post with a picture attached. Found this painting on a second-hand market, and inside, there was a love letter. What should I do? Should I tell the seller? My fingers trembled as I opened the image. It was a Starry Night oil painting, and every brushstroke felt achingly familiar. Because I had painted it, spending 3 painstaking months on every single detail. All because Clement once casually mentioned he liked Van Gogh. I took it to heart and secretly recreated the Starry Night to gift him on his birthday. I'd written a love letter with all the courage I could muster, editing it obsessively for days, but still feeling dissatisfied in the end. So, I nervously tucked it into the frame. But he hadn't even looked at it closely. The product description was brutally simple. A simp's gift, selling cheap. I bit down hard on my lower lip, the metallic taste of blood spreading on my tongue as my heart twisted with unbearable pain. I always knew he didn't like me. But I never thought he'd trample on my feelings like this. Under the post, comments flooded in. This painting looks like a labor of love. How could someone treat it like that? Even if you don't like the gift, you shouldn't insult the person like this. Don't tell the seller. They clearly don't value the painting, saying anything won't change that. Lowering my eyes, I left a comment. Hi, I'm the one who gifted this painting. Could I buy it back? Name your price. Thank you. This painting was the result of 3 months of effort, countless oil canvases ruined in the process. I couldn't let it be discarded as some joke. To my surprise, the poster turned out to be a kind girl. She not only berated Clement as a scumbag but also comforted me. We later discovered we attended the same university and arranged to meet the next day for the exchange. That night, lying on my dorm bed, I stared at the mottled ceiling as despair slowly wrapped around me like the night sky. Clement was always the most dazzling person in any crowd. I knew deep down that someone as ordinary as me would never catch his eye. Still, after liking him for so long, I wanted him to know how I felt. We met in high school. At the time, I had just transferred because of my parents' divorce. Neither of them wanted custody of me, a burden. They even hurled insults at each other in court over who should take responsibility. In the end, my grandmother took pity on me and brought me home. Because of my family situation, I was introverted and withdrawn. I didn't talk much, preferring to bury myself in drawing. Holding a paintbrush gave me a sense of control. Each painting felt like a friend I had carefully created, and I cherished them deeply. But my quiet nature and family background made me an easy target for bullying. The girls at school would rip my drawings, snap my brushes, and even tug at my clothes while mocking me. One day, after being locked in the classroom again, I sat among the scattered, torn papers, my eyes red with tears. That's when I heard a rough, sleepy voice behind me. Startled, I turned to see Clement, lazily shrugging off his jacket with his hair still messy from sleep. He was notorious as the school troublemaker. Panicking, I stammered, "I'm sorry. I didn't know you were sleeping here, He cut me off, bending down to pick up a piece of torn paper. Van Gogh's The Starry Night? I was so surprised he recognized it from just a fragment that I forgot to be scared. Yes. How did you know? He just smirked, tossing the paper onto my desk carelessly. You're pretty good at painting, but you're useless as a person. He gestured at the mess around me. They bully you, and you just let them? I lowered my head, my lips moving as if to speak, but no words came out. With a sigh, he slung his bag over one shoulder and kicked open the classroom door. Come on, he said, looking back impatiently. That was 6 years ago, but I still remember the sunset from that evening. The sky was painted in soft pinks and purples, breathtaking like a masterpiece. But I couldn't focus on it. My eyes were fixed on the rebellious boy in front of me. And I fell. Completely. Clement was popular, always surrounded by beautiful girlfriends. I knew we were worlds apart, so I kept my feelings buried, watching him from afar. Even in college, I chose the same school as him, despite my grades being far above its requirements. Over time, we grew closer as old classmates. I began appearing in his life, comforting him after breakups, skipping class with him to ride motorcycles, taking notes while he slept during lectures. I thought, maybe someday, he might notice me. But in the end, all I got was one word: simp. The next day, I didn't go to class with Clement. He cornered me in the hallway, asking casually, "Why didn't you come to take notes for me today?" He still looked as stunning as ever. Over the years, he had grown tall and lean, his black varsity jacket adding a mature edge to his once boyish charm. But this time, I didn't feel the usual flutter of excitement. I asked instead, "Clement, where's the painting I gave you?" A fleeting panic crossed his face, before he quickly masked it. "Why are you asking? You gave it to me, so it's mine now. Don't tell me you want it back?" Looking down at my shoes, I replied softly, "Yes." I suddenly realized I didn't want to give it to you after all. "Please return it." He turned his face away, his tone becoming defensive. I took it home. "Just paint another one if you want it so badly." I shook my head. "No. I want that one." Of course, I knew he couldn't produce it. I just wanted to hear him admit it. Clement fell silent, his expression shifting to frustration. "Why are you being so annoying? I told you I don't have it. It's just a stupid painting. Why are you making such a big deal out of it?" At that moment, a beautiful girl passed by, hooking her arm around his and chirping, "Are we still going racing later?" He paused, then slung an arm around her shoulders with a grin. "Of course. Let's go." As they walked past, I heard him mutter under his breath, "Buzzkill." It was meant for me, no doubt. In the past, I would have rushed to apologize and placate him. But this time I felt nothing but exhaustion. I didn't want to chase him anymore. As I turned to leave, a deep male voice suddenly called out behind me, "Warrior Beauty?" That was my online username. I froze for a moment and turned around to see who it was. A tall boy in a white shirt stood not far away, holding a large, flat package. His figure was lean, and his presence immediately caught the attention of the girls passing by. They whispered to each other, some even taking out their phones to snap pictures. His sharp features were striking: clean, defined jawline, high nose bridge, and cold, commanding brows. But the tear mole beneath his eye and the vibrant redness of his lips softened his severe looks, giving him an inexplicable air of allure and romance. I recognized him instantly: Egbert, from the computer science department. He was so famous that probably no one in the school didn't know him. But we'd never had any interactions before, so how on earth did he know my username? For a moment, I thought I must have misheard, but then he walked straight toward me and handed over the package he was holding. "Your artwork." My eyes widened. But the person I spoke with was a girl. I couldn't hide my awkward expression. Wait, was Egbert secretly into cross-dressing? Just as I was lost in shock, he clarified, "That's my sister. She couldn't make it, so she asked me to deliver it for her." This was the first time I'd ever spoken to Egbert. The weight of the stares from people around us was suffocating. I quickly took the package from him. "Thanks." Egbert nodded. "The art is beautiful," he said. I was stunned. Someone like him, complimenting me? It was so unexpected that I was momentarily flustered. But he didn't say anything else, just turned and walked away. It wasn't until he disappeared from sight that it hit me: how did he even recognize me? I hadn't sent a photo. No matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't figure it out. Hugging my artwork, I returned to the dorm. The next day, I still didn't go looking for Clement. We'd never really had any major arguments before. Our relationship had always been one where I gave in endlessly. Whenever there was any disagreement, it was always me who swallowed my pride to apologize and patch things up. But this time, I didn't reach out to him. Instead, Clement came to find me. After class, he grabbed my hand and pulled me into the hallway, frowning. "You know Egbert?" Before I could respond, he smirked mockingly. "I was wondering why you haven't been coming to class with me these past 2 days. Turns out you're busy seducing someone else." He continued, Jocelyn, are you kidding me? Do you even know what kind of person he is? Let me tell you, half the five-star hotels in this city belong to his family. They're filthy rich. Seriously, don't even dream about it. You and he? Not even in the same league. Do you really think he'd look at someone like you? The scorn and malice in his eyes cut into me like knives. I looked up at him. I had loved this man for so long. Loved him to the point where just seeing him would fill me with joy. But now, the once familiar face in front of me seemed completely unrecognizable, and it broke my heart. I used every ounce of strength to hold back the tears welling up in my eyes and said in a trembling voice, Clement, you're such an ass. That was the end of me and Clement. After cursing him out, he first looked shocked, then furious, punching the wall of the hallway before storming off. We never spoke again. And I didn't try to contact him either. Thinking about it now, being yelled at by someone who had always followed him around like a puppy must have been a blow to his precious pride. But honestly, I was exhausted from that relationship. It was better this way. The only issue was that Clement and I had picked the same elective courses, because he used to skip class a lot, and I would cover for him. So now, I still had to run into him often. Recently, he'd been showing up to class regularly, probably because there was no one to cover for him anymore. And every time I saw him, he was with a different gorgeous girl. He had a type, long legs, slim waists. Unlike Egbert's cold and distant reputation, Clement was a notorious playboy. He was always surrounded by girls, constantly changing his companions every few days. Even though everyone knew he wasn't reliable, his handsome face still drew them in droves. One day, outside the classroom, I saw him again, his arm around a stunning girl in a fitted dress, with wavy hair. The girl, Lynn, was from the dance department, curves in all the right places. Even I, as a girl, couldn't help but take a second look. As Clement passed by me, he didn't spare me a glance, walking straight ahead like I didn't exist. But from the tension in his jaw, I could tell he wasn't in a good mood. Fine by me. He was none of my concern anymore. I ignored him and went into the classroom to sit down. My roommate whispered, "You two fought?" I kept my head down, flipping through my book. No. It wasn't a fight. I just didn't want to be a doormat anymore. Yeah, right, she said, glancing at Clement. He's glaring at you. You two used to be glued at the hip, going everywhere together. What happened? I didn't answer. Maybe others thought Clement and I were close. I used to think so, too. But looking back, he probably just found me convenient. Someone to take notes, do homework, keep him entertained, even buy his breakfast every morning. At best, I'd been a glorified babysitter. As I sat there, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was staring at me. My roommate glanced behind me and fell silent. The classroom grew quiet all of a sudden. A shadow loomed over my desk. I looked up, startled. Egbert was standing in front of me, hands in his pockets. He glanced at the empty seat beside me and asked in his deep voice, "Is the seat taken?" Every pair of eyes in the room was on us. I froze for half a second, then forced myself to stay calm, even as my roommate squeezed my arm in excitement. No, I replied. Egbert nodded and sat down beside me. I could feel the gazes bouncing between me, Clement, and Egbert, curious, envious, as if we were caught in some sort of love triangle. Feeling awkward, I tried to make small talk. I haven't seen you before. Did you also take this art history elective? To my surprise, Egbert wasn't as cold and distant as the rumors said. His deep voice had a magnetic quality, and when he leaned in to speak, there was something almost seductive about it. My sister signed up for it, but she's busy, so I'm here to take notes for her, he said. I haven't attended before. What's the class up to? My roommate was practically bursting with questions, shooting me looks filled with curiosity and disbelief. I ignored her, pulled out my notebook, and handed it to him. Here, you can borrow my notes. I've written down everything from recent lectures. Thanks. He flipped through the pages, pausing when he came across a sunflower sketch I'd drawn absent-mindedly. You draw beautifully, he remarked, turning to me. Do you like drawing? I hesitated, then nodded. Yes, I did. When I was younger, I had few friends, and even my closest family treated me like an outcast. Only my sketchbook and pencils never abandoned me. As I thought about that painting posted online, I couldn't help but feel a pang of discomfort. I like it too. There's a traveling art exhibition this weekend. It doesn't have Starry Night, but it features Monet's Impression, Sunrise, and Pissarro's The Avenue in the Forest. Want to go? I froze, instinctively pinching my thigh so hard it almost made me cry out in pain. Egbert was asking me out? Am I dreaming? My roommate, sitting nearby, grabbed my arm in a death grip, her eyes shining like spotlights. She looked like she was seconds away from answering for me. Egbert tilted his head and glanced at me when I didn't respond. Sure, I stammered, swallowing nervously, my words coming out as awkwardly as a rooster's crow. Egbert chuckled. When his face was expressionless, he exuded an unapproachable aloofness. But when he smiled, his lips turned a natural rosy hue, and his thick, long lashes fluttered like raven feathers. I found myself staring, my heart pounding wildly. Oh my God, I don't have any romantic feelings for Egbert, but honestly, who wouldn't feel something when faced with a face like that? I didn't absorb a single word during that lecture. My mind was consumed by thoughts of the traveling exhibition. Egbert invited me out. Why did Egbert invite me? Does he like me? When did he start liking me? Then I scolded myself for being so self-indulgent. The idea was ridiculous. There were enough people who liked Egbert to circle the campus, so why would he ever like someone as ordinary as me, someone who would blend into the crowd? He was probably just being polite because I lent him my notes. A simple return of the favor, nothing more. Even after class ended, I was still in a daze until Egbert placed the notes back in my hands. Not only that, his cool, slender fingers lingered over mine for a brief second before he pulled them away as if nothing had happened. A faint scent of tobacco mixed with mint brushed past my nose. My face flushed instantly. I shoved the notes into my bag and bolted out of the room like my life depended on it. Behind me, I caught the faint sound of his low chuckle. Back when Clement and I weren't at odds, I always felt that our time together wasn't enough. Now, it feels like I see him everywhere. In the cafeteria, he was sitting at the table where we used to eat together. Except now, Lynn was sitting beside him instead of me. I wanted to stay as far away as possible, but the cafeteria was packed at lunchtime, and the only available seat was at the table next to his. Carrying my tray, I walked over. Clement didn't spare me a single glance, only let out a derisive snort loud enough for everyone around to hear. Damn, can't get rid of her, he muttered. My hands faltered, but I pretended not to hear him. His group of hangers-on, who knew all about our recent fallout, exchanged knowing glances and started laughing. Seriously, some people don't know their place. Do they think clinging on will actually work? Lynn, eyes crinkled in a smile, leaned closer to Clement as she looked my way. I lowered my gaze, suddenly finding my once favorite rice bowl utterly tasteless. I had already decided to let go of him, but hearing those words still made my chest ache. It was like a thorn buried deep in the flesh, not sharp enough to pierce through, but always there, a dull pain impossible to ignore. At that moment, one of the groupies laughed. Speaking of which, I saw someone online who spent 3 months painting a piece for their crush. They even tucked a love letter inside, but the recipient didn't even look at it and resold it on a second-hand platform. The address was from our school. The laughter grew louder. Do you know what the description said? It said, a gift from a desperate loser. Selling it cheap. Huh. Our school really is a breeding ground for suckers. I clenched my spoon so tightly my fingers ached. But this time, Clement didn't laugh with them. Among the chatter, he just sat there, staring blankly ahead. After a moment, he turned and quietly asked, what kind of painting was it? The groupie shrugged. How should I know? Just some random thing I scrolled past. Something like Starry something. A copy of Van Gogh or Picasso, I think. Before he could finish, he added, the funniest part? The person who painted it ended up buying it back from the platform. Clement suddenly stood up, the sound of his chair scraping and dishes clattering, startling everyone at the table. What's wrong, Clement? He didn't answer, just stared at me, his face pale and his expression flustered. Jocelyn, he called out. I couldn't take it anymore. Grabbing my tray, I turned and left, without looking back. Time and again, my feelings were trampled on. What's so wrong about liking someone? The flutter of young love, the restless sleepless nights, the unspoken affection that could only stay hidden. Does it all deserve to be tossed aside like garbage? I didn't look back at Clement or finish my meal. I fled the cafeteria. Later that evening, as I was reading, my phone buzzed. It was Clement. I pressed my lips together, hesitating before declining the call. But he was persistent, calling repeatedly. That was just like him, never stopping until he got what he wanted. If I didn't answer, there was no telling what he'd do next. With a sigh, I finally picked up. What do you want? I'm downstairs. Come down. He always spoke in that commanding tone. I frowned. Whatever it is, say it over the phone. I'm busy. Surprisingly, he didn't sound annoyed this time. Instead, his voice softened. It's not something I can explain in a few words. Please, just come down. Left with no choice, I slipped on my shoes and went downstairs. There he was, standing in a black tank top, his toned yet understated muscles drawing second glances from passing girls. What is it? I asked, averting my eyes. Clement lowered his head, staying silent for a moment before running a hand through his hair in frustration. I didn't sell the painting. I got too many gifts at once and asked a friend to handle them. He paused, then added, the things he said were just jokes. Don't take them to heart. I blinked in surprise. Clement was explaining himself? With his personality, I'd expected something more along the lines of, yeah, I sold it. Why would I need your permission? If it were in the past, I probably would have forgiven him already, gone back to his side, and continued being the simp his friends joked about. But now, I'm done. I said softly, what difference does it make? Whether it was you or your friend who sold it, does it matter? If he had cared even a little about the painting, would he have tossed it to his friend without so much as a glance? Clement was still the same Clement. Impatience quickly crept into his tone. I've already explained everything to you. Do you really need to harp on about something so trivial? You got the painting back, didn't you? Fine, I'll buy it back from you. Happy now? I stared at him in silence. Did Clement know he was wrong? Of course, he did. He wasn't stupid. But from the start, he never apologized to me. Why? Because he didn't think I was worth it. In his eyes, someone like me, a pathetic, clingy admirer, didn't deserve an apology. He assumed I'd keep orbiting around him regardless. Maybe he even thought explaining himself to me was already lowering himself enough. I sighed softly. I'm not holding on to anything. Then why haven't you reached out to me lately? He frowned. The evening breeze tousled my hair. I tucked a strand behind my ear and said, exhaustion lacing my voice, I just realized something. Chasing after you is too tiring. Maybe we're not suited to be friends. I couldn't find a better word, but we were hardly friends. At best, it was a relationship I had desperately tried to maintain on my own. Even a stretched rubber band snaps eventually. I'm only human, I get tired too. Clement's expression darkened instantly. Sure enough, his next words dripped with mockery. Jocelyn, you really overestimate yourself. Friends? You think you're worthy of being my friend? When I didn't respond, his face grew even darker. What, you think I give a damn about being around you? Let me tell you, I've been sick of your clinginess for ages. Great. From now on, whoever contacts the other first is a loser. Saying that, he pulled out his phone and, right in front of me, blocked me on every platform. He muttered a curse under his breath before storming off. But it wasn't over yet. When I got back upstairs, my roommate found me, her expression grim. Did you offend Lynn? Confused, I asked, what? No, I don't even know her. She handed me her phone. She posted something on Instagram. It's a screenshot of your tweet about the painting you gave Clement, and she also posted the love letter you wrote. She blurred your name, but it's obvious she's talking about you. She glanced at me cautiously. A lot of people are commenting. Don't let it get to you. They're just a bunch of jerks. Should we ask Lynn to take it down? It took me a few seconds to process her words before I grabbed her phone. Sure enough, Lynn had posted on Instagram. Got a painting for my boyfriend's birthday, and it came with a love letter. But he didn't even look at it before selling it on a second-hand market. What a dummy. Feel bad for the girl who spent 3 months painting it, lol. Everyone knew she was dating Clement, so it didn't take long for people to figure out the painting was mine. The comments were brutal. I remember seeing Jocelyn follow Clement around all the time. I thought they were dating. Turns out she was just a simp. That's kinda harsh. She put a lot of effort into the gift. Yeah, but come on. Lynn versus Jocelyn? Even an idiot knows the choice. How did she even dare? I felt my whole body go cold. My hands trembled as I gripped the phone. How could she do this? Soon, classmates started messaging me. Some girls even came to my dorm, pretending to console me while clearly enjoying the drama. Panicked, I didn't even think to change clothes before rushing out the door. I ran until I was too exhausted to move and found myself by the artificial lake. By then, my face was wet and burning. I slumped onto a large rock, burying my head in my knees, sobbing softly. I didn't understand how things had turned out like this. I hadn't done anything wrong. I just genuinely liked someone. Why did I deserve to be humiliated like this? The evening breeze carried a chill, seeping into my bones. I felt cold and miserable, completely defeated. Suddenly, a jacket was draped gently over my shoulders, still warm from someone's body heat. Startled, I looked up and saw Egbert. He was dressed in a black shirt, the top 2 buttons undone, revealing his sharp collarbones. What are you doing here? My voice was thick with tears. He paused for a moment. I saw you run out of the dorm earlier. I figured you might need some time to cool off, so I didn't call out to you. For some reason, his words brought a fresh wave of tears to my eyes. I'd spent years trailing after Clement, only to receive pain and disappointment. And yet, Egbert, someone I'd just met, treated me with such care. He sat beside me, unfazed by the dirt on the rock, and said casually, "Is it because of Clement? I remember you two were always together." I lowered my head, remaining silent. He continued, "Anyone who makes you cry isn't worth your tears." The moonlight shimmered on the lake, the ripples fracturing its glow. Egbert turned to me, his gaze earnest. "Jocelyn, you're amazing. You need to learn to love yourself. Don't cry for someone like him." In the moonlight, his eyes reflected the glimmering water. And me. For a moment, all my troubles faded away. All I could see was the man in front of me. Egbert's gaze was serious as he leaned closer. I could even catch the faint scent of tobacco on his lips. Though the lakeside air was cold, heat surged through me uncontrollably. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might leap out of my chest. But just before his lips could touch mine, I sprang to my feet in a panic. "I think I should head back," I blurted. What was happening? Was he about to kiss me? But we'd only just met. His face was too dangerous, it nearly bewitched me. Egbert froze for a second, then stood up as if nothing had happened. "Let's go. I'll walk you back." The atmosphere between us was strange. On the way back, I racked my brain for something to say. "How did you recognize me the first time we met?" Egbert's lips curved slightly. "My sister told me who you were." I was puzzled. "You knew me before? Have we met?" Egbert fell silent. After a long pause, he said softly, "In high school, in the art studio. The one who always sat in the back row, wearing a hoodie. Do you remember?" I froze. In high school, life was hard for me. I often escaped to the art room to paint, immersing myself in the vibrant colors of the paints. At the back of the classroom, there was always a boy in a black hoodie. He wore his hood up, and his messy hair constantly obscured his eyes. I can't remember what he looked like anymore, all I remember is that he painted with his left hand. His fingers were long and slender, with defined knuckles, and there was always half a cigarette held between 2 fingers. He spent most of his time in the art room sleeping. When he woke up, he painted. By the time everyone else had left, it was often just the 2 of us remaining. His drawings were precise, but his use of color was terrible. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I approached him quietly and said, "You should blend 3 shades of red here. This color doesn't seem quite right." He looked up, his bangs still covering his eyes, but his voice was unexpectedly pleasant. "Which 3?" I pursed my lips and mixed the color with my brush to show him. From that day on, we often painted together. I was socially anxious, and he didn't talk much. Even after months of painting side by side, we didn't know each other's names, but I felt like our souls connected through our brushes. The only impressions he left me with were his unruly bangs and his beautiful voice. He was probably the closest thing to a friend I had during high school. But he left soon after. I heard he transferred to another school for a better chance at college entrance exams. We didn't exchange contact information. He left behind a single painting in the art room, a sunflower we had painted together. "Is it you?" I asked in shock. "Where did you go afterward?" Egbert glanced at me. It was hard to decipher the look in his eyes, it seemed to carry a hint of dissatisfaction. I widened my eyes. "What's wrong?" "I left my contact information in the painting, in the hidden layer. But you never reached out to me. When you started school here, I recognized you immediately, but you didn't recognize me. You were always with that guy, so I didn't bother you." I froze. It had been so long that I only remembered how beautiful that painting was. After he left, I missed him for a long time, and I stopped going to the art room. I even thought about asking the teacher if I could take the painting home, but when I went back the next day, it was gone. Someone must have taken it. So, he hid his contact information in that painting? Wasn't that just like me? Egbert lightly patted my shoulder. "So don't feel too bad. You're not the first person to give someone a painting and be ignored." I didn't know how to respond and could only mumble a reply, but deep down, I felt a glimmer of happiness. That night, I didn't dream of Clement. I dreamed of a younger Egbert in his black hoodie, his features refined. He handed me a painting of Starry Night and said in a clear voice, "Jocelyn, you may not know me, but I've known you for a long, long time." The next day, Lynn deleted her Instagram for some reason. My roommate told me that someone had seen Lynn and Clement having a huge fight, with Lynn running out of the classroom in tears. But I wasn't concerned anymore. Egbert was right, someone who made me cry wasn't worth my tears. It was time to focus on myself. To my surprise, Clement came to find me that evening. He waited outside the girls' dormitory, and when he saw me, he grabbed me and pulled me aside. "Yesterday was my mom's death anniversary. Why weren't you there?" I froze, suddenly remembering. Clement's parents had both passed away when he was in middle school. His father's death wasn't exactly honorable. He died during an affair, suffocated in a car, discovered naked. His mother couldn't handle the blow and jumped to her death. Clement used to be a good kid, by all accounts, but after that, he spiraled. Since we'd been together, I'd always accompanied him on his mom's death anniversary. I wouldn't say much, just sat with him by the grave. Sometimes, he would hold me, his body trembling. I thought he didn't need me anymore. And truthfully, I didn't want to follow him around anymore. Clement looked furious. His cold fingers brushed against my neck as he bent down, his gaze sharp. "Why didn't you come with me? I called you so many times, and you blocked me? How dare you block me?" I frowned. "First of all, you blocked me first. Second, I can't spend my entire life by your side. Your girlfriend should have gone with you." Clement stiffened, his expression faltering. "I broke up with Lynn. That's not my problem." I pushed him away, but he pulled me back. He held me close, his grip alarmingly strong. "Jocelyn, are you still mad that I was with her?" I scoffed. "If I got mad every time you were with someone, I'd be dead by now. You like me, don't you?" Clement's brow furrowed as he said irritably, "Fine, I'll be with you." I was surprised he would say that. In the past, I would have been overjoyed. But now, I felt nothing but amusement. I shook him off and sneered, "Don't bother. I don't like you anymore." Clement smirked mockingly, as if he thought I was lying to protect my pride. "Yeah, right. Isn't being with me the one thing you've wanted most in life? Don't you remember what you wrote in your love letter? We are all born in different shapes, but I'm willing to change mine to fit yours." His disdain was clear, and the way he looked at me was like I was a pathetic fool. Or have you fallen for Egbert now? Do you think he's better than me? I clenched my fists and looked him straight in the eye. Are you trying to humiliate me? Do you think liking you is something shameful? Clement froze. For a few seconds, his expression was stiff. I smiled bitterly and turned to leave. This time, he didn't call after me. I threw myself into my studies, and my already decent GPA climbed higher. Egbert was right. Letting go of someone who wasn't worth it felt liberating. I enrolled in art courses, joined the art club, and went to paint whenever I had free time. Egbert and I attended art exhibitions and saw pieces I had admired for years but had never seen in person. And then, I got a study abroad opportunity in the UK. A few days before I was set to leave, Clement showed up again. It was raining heavily, and the cold was biting. His eyes were red as he grabbed my shoulders. You're leaving for the UK? Why didn't you tell me? I looked at him coldly. Who are you? Why should I tell you anything? Clement gritted his teeth. Jocelyn, you promised you wouldn't leave me. I remembered the day I first went with him to visit his mother's grave. He had bitten his lip so hard it bled, refusing to cry. I had told him I would always stay by his side. But now... Clement, do you need me to remind you how you sold my painting and then called me a simp? I said with a blank expression. He frowned. I told you already, that wasn't me. Jocelyn, can you not leave? I looked at him, disappointment evident in my eyes. After all this time, he still hadn't changed. Always so selfish. Always only thinking about himself. I turned to leave, but he grew more agitated and followed closely behind, raising his voice. What do you want from me? Isn't it just to be with me? Fine, I'll be with you. Why are you still so mad? I whipped around and shouted. You don't even know what I want. You're just selfish and self-centered, Clement. Liking you is the biggest regret of my life. It seemed Clement and I were destined to part on bad terms every time. But this time, he didn't leave. The late autumn night was chilly, and the rain fell in slanted sheets from the sky. He just stood there, stunned, not moving an inch. At first, there were cigarette butts on the ground, but the rain washed them away. At 2 a.m., I was jolted awake by the sound of a text notification. It was from an unfamiliar number, and the message was long. Now I understand what you want. You wanted an apology, but it's too late for me to realize it. All these years, I selfishly enjoyed your company, pretending not to know you liked me, while I wasted time on meaningless distractions. I was afraid of giving my heart to someone. I'll never forget the day my mom made me one last meal, smiled as she sent me off, and by the time I came back, she was gone, a cold, lifeless body. That's why I didn't dare fall for anyone, especially after I realized my feelings for you had changed. I became even more reckless, parading other girls in front of you, pretending not to care, hoping to keep my distance and stop myself from liking you more. Now I know how foolish I've been. I thought you'd always be there for me, that I'd find you whenever I turned back. But now I understand, you can leave, too. These days have been hard for me. I keep thinking about you, and the more I think, the more panicked I feel. I can't take it anymore. Jocelyn, I know I was terribly wrong, but could you give me another chance to make it up to you? I'm sorry. Please. Consider it a favor, give me back the painting, okay? Any trace of sleep vanished. I stared at the glaringly bright screen, feeling a faint sting in my eyes. Clement apologizing? That was new. No anger, no sarcasm, no condescension. I almost suspected he had someone else write it. It seemed he truly wasn't adjusting well to life without me if he was willing to lower himself to this extent. For someone as proud as him, who never bowed his head to anyone, this was out of character. But he wasn't asking for the painting. He was asking for my heart. For a long time I had waited for this moment. Waited for his apology. Waited for his affection. Waited for his attention to finally fall on me. I could understand why Clement had turned out the way he did, just as he had said, his family tragedy shaped him. But so had mine. Now I realized why I'd spent so long chasing after him. My childhood was devoid of love. I was so starved for it that I clung to anything I could, desperately trying to keep myself from drowning. I made Clement my entire purpose because my life had once been so empty. I needed something, anything, to fill it. So no matter how cruel he was, I endured it. Because without him, my life would return to that void. But now, I finally understood. I shouldn't live for someone else. Every moment of my life is meaningful simply because it's mine. I don't need someone else to fill the emptiness. I can do that myself. Clement was wrong. He thought all I wanted was an apology. He didn't know, I stopped needing it a long time ago. Because I no longer care. I typed a short reply. Too long, didn't read. Then I blocked the number. I had no obligation to pay the price for his family tragedy. Everyone has their own burdens to bear. His life wasn't harder than mine. If I were to pity someone, it would be myself. This is where it ends for us. On the day I left the country, Egbert came to see me off. He carried my luggage all the way to the security checkpoint. No, we weren't together. I had found my direction in life and no longer needed someone else's love to make me whole. I decided to let things unfold naturally. If it was meant to be, we'd meet again. Just then, my phone buzzed with a new message from an unfamiliar number. Goodbye, Jocelyn. Wishing you all the best. If you're ever unhappy, come back anytime. I'll always be here waiting for you. I smiled and deleted the messages. Goodbye, I said, waving to Egbert. He smiled slightly. Take care of yourself. I'll miss you. I tried to act natural, not wanting him to see that I was a little reluctant to leave. But then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a plane ticket. I happened to be traveling to the same country. Looks like we're on the same flight. What a coincidence. I was stunned. It was the only flight today. Who was he kidding? Where's your luggage? He shrugged. My family has a house there. It's fully stocked. I've got my essentials in my pocket. You watched me say goodbye to you so seriously this whole time? I was genuinely sad. Feigning anger, I grabbed my suitcase from him. He raised his hands in surrender. My bad. It's just, seeing how reluctant you were to leave me made me happy. My face turned bright red. I lowered my head and walked ahead, ignoring him. Hey, wait for me. He jogged to catch up. The sunlight formed halos in the dust-filled air. I walked ahead of Egbert, a smile tugging at my lips. No matter where life took us, I was grateful to him. He had taught me to love myself. And I would continue forward with unwavering determination. The end.